Oh, hi there. Dave Sclavi again. Just taking a little break from working on the 1361. Having a prosciutto sandwich there. Had a little vodka rigatoni earlier I made up. It was pretty good. Anyhow, I've been doing the piping. And it's a lot of work, you know, to get it just right. Like I mentioned on the other video, that nothing looks worse than having a bunch of crooked pipes. So on these really long runs, I use, it's tubing, but I'm calling it pipe. It's brass tubing that I get from Special Shapes. It comes in 36-inch lengths. It's not that expensive. And it's easily threaded on the lathe with my dies and whatnot. And just tonight I was, before I came down here again, I was looking on the Chasky, and someone was asking a question about what fittings to use. Well, to be honest with you, I usually buy them from Kohl's, but lately, and since I went to Cabin Fever, I noticed that PM Research up in New York State has been selling some really nice fittings. I want to put a plug in for somebody, but honestly, it really makes the engine look better when you use these they're 8-sided unions. Now, the biggest problem that I have with them is that the center of the union, the union nut, is 3/8. But on either side, where you tighten it up to the pipe, tubing, is 235. Well, where do you get a 235 wrench? You make it. Okay? I took an old 3/16 wrench that had a little bit of a meat to it on the sides, and I ground it, just carefully ground it on the belt sander over here until I got it just so. And I use that to tighten everything up. That works good. Regular standard 3/8 wrench. This is a little bit fat, you know, on the sides here, but some of the other ones are smaller. You might have to grind some down. I'm considering making up some wrenches. And someone asked about, what are these lines for? Are they the air coolers? No, they're not air coolers. They supply air. Actually, on the prototype, it was air to the different, two of these were brake lines. One was something, cylinder cocks or something else. But what I'm using it for is this one on the top. At the moment, it's silver. That's because it's steel. Is a dummy pipe. I was going to put a 1/4-inch pipe up there that's the bypass, which you can't really see it, but it's underneath here, and it runs down around and then back underneath here. You can't see it. It's a 1/4-inch pipe, a 1/4-inch tubing, which is about, you know, this large. It just would look a little too fat in there, and then I would have had to make a special clamp at that point in a special diameter, the little half round inside there to nest the pipe. So I decided to hide it in the back behind the air tank, and you don't see it. And then the power reverse gear feed follows along with it. It runs along with it. And someone asked about, what are these lines for? Are they the air coolers? No, they're not air coolers. They supply air. Actually, on the prototype, it was air to the different, two of these were brake lines. One was something, cylinder cocks or something else. But what I'm using it for is this one on the top. At the moment, it's silver. That's because it's steel. Is a dummy pipe. I was going to put a 1/4-inch pipe up there that's the bypass, which you can't really see it, but it's underneath here, and it runs down around and then back underneath here. You can't see it. It's a 1/4-inch pipe, a 1/4-inch tubing, which is about, you know, this large. It just would look a little too fat in there. And then I would have had to make a special clamp at that point in a special diameter, the little half round inside there to nest the pipe. So I decided to hide it in the back behind the air tank, and you don't see it. And then the power reverse gear feed follows along with it. It runs along with it from inside the cab here. Underneath here, behind here where you don't see it. Anyway, this is a dummy line for now. This one right here that sneaks down inside here connects to this air tank. And then next phase of construction here will be to run a pipe behind here, right at this point, over the top to the other air tank, which then, of course, goes to the compressor. And the cooler line is on that side. We'll cover that in another session. The bottom one, right here, this is the brake line that runs to the air brakes down here. The air brake cylinders tees off to the lead truck, which has brakes. And then back here, there's a rubber hose that leads to the trailing truck. So all of the wheels have brake shoes here and on the tender, of course. And then the bottom one is the cylinder drain cocks, which then eventually leads up to the piping there on the cylinder drain cocks. Well, that's what I've been working on. Next phase, I got to get all of these pipes hooked up, figure out which way to route them, and get them hooked up here. And now you notice that I have a union here, a union, 3 down here. Well, it sounds like overkill, but that's what they had on a prototype. Right over here on the board I have a drawing, the actual scale drawing, that shows the union just like what I have them here. And they're staggered so that I guess you can get the wrench in there to tighten them. That's why they're staggered. And you figure it out. You figure that's the actual length of a pipe that would be normal, 15 foot, 20 foot of pipe that you would buy in a supply house that would be 20 feet long. So that's why they're this length. This, I don't know if you can see it here, but right here, there's a little air line that's connected to the main reservoir. What that's going to be is a shutoff, and then it's going to continue down here and have a valve right here, and then run down with a rubber hose, and then go across on the other side and have a set of rubber hose. What that is you're going to take that off, and you have a little nozzle on the end. You open that up in the air, and then you blow down the ashes. That's what that's going to do, and it's actually going to work. There's the blow down valve right here. That'll move that down a little bit later on. The little cocks underneath there. It's coming along. This could be removed. I can take that right off. And now you can see the pipe. It looks kind of awkward without the covering on there, but when the covering, the running board is on top, you don't really notice it. The cab, got to do a little more work on that. Here's what we covered before. The turret actually works, and then of course there's hold downs on here to bolt it down. It works kind of like a Model A Ford. 3/16, use that a lot. 1/4 inch, use fair amount. And 5/16, this is all 5/16, the injectors. Feed lines, some of the other feed lines are 5/16. So we use all of those sizes. And we have the dies, I have the dies, and I have the taps. So, that's about it for this video. Going to go back to my prosciutto sandwich. And we'll see you later. So thanks again.